A final family of graphs that you need to be familiar with for the A-level course are a family of graphs called reciprocal graphs. And these are of the form y equals something over x, or perhaps y equals something over x squared, whether something is just a number that's given to you or maybe not. You could extend the theory further and say y equals a over x cubed, but we don't really need to consider that, and I won't look at that in this video. But these are called reciprocal graphs, and you need to be able to sketch graphs of this form, and we're going to also have a look at sketching two types of the same graph on the same set of axes. Okay. So the sketches then, well, in all four of these, A is positive. If you have y equals a on x, where a is any positive number, the sketch will look like this. And we have a pair of asymptotes. So both axes are an asymptote, and that means that the curve approaches the asymptote, but never reaches it. It gets closer and closer and closer and closer, but never actually touches it. Okay, the same in the x direction, the same over here towards the negative y, and the same over here again towards the negative x. There's a set of asymptotes. And you can see that if x is 0, then y doesn't have a value, and if y is 0, well, there's no value of x. That will make a on x 0. So there's no solutions to those. So it doesn't cross either axis. Okay. If the bottom was squared, so again, a is positive still, a on x squared, and it looks very similar, except that the branch is now in this quadrant rather than this quadrant. Okay. In terms of the actual graphs, if they were plotted on the same axes, this would be a lot sharper than this was. But because they're different axes and it's just a sketch, you don't need to put in that much detail into these graphs. Okay, they're just sketches. If I were to put a minus number on top, then that's going to reflect it in the x-axis. Okay, so we can see instead of these two quadrants, then it's these two quadrants, and same here. Okay, you're changing the a for a negative a is going to reflect it in the x-axis, so we end up with the bottom two quadrants for y equals minus a on x squared. So these are the four ones that can come up. So make sure you are familiar with, first of all, getting the sketch right if you are given one of these, and also if you're given a sketch to recognise which equation would belong to it. And the only other thing I want to cover in this video is, well, what happens if we need to plot two or sketch two on the same set of axes. So I've got an example here. I want to plot y equals 1 on x and y equals 2 on x on the same pair of axes. And you need to make sure they're clearly labelled. So I'm going to use different colours. So I've got orange for 1 over x and green for 2 over x. So that you know that the difference between the two graphs. So I'm going to put 1 over x on first. Okay, it's a sketch, so it doesn't need to be too accurate. You just need to get the shape right, and the quadrants right. So we can see that is the graph of 1 over x. And the question is essentially, how is the graph of 2 over x going to compare to this? Well, in the next set of videos, we're going to be looking at transformations of graphs, and we would recognise that this is going to be a stretch in the y direction by a scale factor of 2. So it means everything is twice as far away from the x-axis as was previously, so as was in the orange curve. So it's going to be slightly further away from the origin in every case, and we're going to have, it's never going to touch the orange curve. It's going to be a situation like this. Again, the x-axis and the y-axis are both going to be asymptotes, and the orange curve will squash in between the green curve and the axis as you approach infinity. And the same is going to happen over here. Again, you don't need to be too accurate, you just need to make sure that your curves don't touch. Okay, the curves won't touch. There's no solutions to 1 over x equals 2 over x. They will never touch. And you've got the positions right relative to each other. So it's further away from the axis at all times. And they are clearly labelled. So I'm going to label this one as 2 over x, or y equals 2 over x, and label this one as y equals 1 over x. For this to be strictly true, we should also really label the axes, x and y, and that will do. Okay, so these are the reciprocal graphs. Make sure you're familiar with these 4, and also you are happy with how you sketch multiple graphs on the same axes.